I think where should I, okay, let me backtrack here for a minute, right? Um,
Dan's jumping out of his seats right now, guys.
I
Just
know I don't even know where to start or what to say. So here's the thing. So let me ask you a question, I guess. Here's how I'll start. Let me ask you a
yeah.
question.
I like the question. Sorry, you putting me on the spot.
Can you make a an educated decision without information?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a, a jumbo shrimp question, I guess, or whatever they call it. I don't know if it's
I
an
like those questions.
oxymoron.
Keep those questions coming. Those are easy. Those are
So
good.
this is, I think, what so many salespeople do when we don't get enough data to make an educated decision, right?
Ooh,
How many times have you and I had the conversation? How many times have you heard me speak about right message, right person, right? You can't deliver the right message until you have data to deliver the right message. I just had a great phone call with a gentleman who's on the TCA, the Truckload Carriers Association. He deals with multiple companies. We were talking about driver retention. We were talking about industry, how tough it is to retain drivers. What do we need to do to retain drivers? And he shared some data with me that was absolutely insane. And I just shared it with you, and it kind of blew your mind.
oh,
So, for all
good.
of you, unreal, right? All of you brokers out
Yeah.
there that think it's just truck driver, truck driver, truck driver, it costs on average from six to $22,000 to hire one driver. Now, think about, and I want you all to think about this from another perspective. Step out of your shoes and step into their shoes. When you have what they call in the industry crackerjack freight, have you ever heard of what crackerjack freight is,
I
DJ?
have. I've never actually heard that term. What is it?
Okay, so crackerjack freight, and I don't know if it's still used. This was used when I was on the asset side. We're talking 2003, where we would say it's crackerjack freight when we get a load from a broker because we never knew what surprise we were going to get on the load, right? So
Oh,
crackerjacks,
okay.
you
Yeah,
remember the
yeah.
food
The
crackerjack?
surprise in the box. I like it.
Yeah, the surprise in the box. You never knew what surprise you were going to get. So that's why we called it crackerjack freight. And it was funny because when he said that, I was like 6 to 22 grand. He goes, yeah. He goes, so Dan, think about it. This driver costs you $20,000 to hire out of your pocket before he runs a mile.
Jeez.
He runs a mile and gets your crap ass load. What
Mhm.
happens? Right? Like think from a business, right? Because all of us in sales, if you're a commission salesperson, if you're a salaried employee, you run a business inside a business. And if we don't think of our career as that, we're really missing the big boat here. So that data, I now go back and I say, I'm thinking in my customer perspective, what if I start asking customers, because every time I send a driver in, it's a $20,000 decision. If I take that perspective, because now I have that data, and
Yep.
I start asking my customers things like, because Ray was saying, he goes, Dan, we filter our customers kind of 1 to 5. And he goes, and the number one customers have driver facilities, whether it be somewhere they can sleep, cafeteria where they can get food, where they don't have to go off site, locked gates, da, 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 even like facilities to shower. And I know those are huge steps for a company to take, but I look at it another way when I say, okay, these drivers are who get your product to market. So without these drivers, your product doesn't get to market. Hence, you don't make any sales. Hence, you don't make any money. Hence, your business folds. Right?
Oh
It's
man.
this. It's this like rock in a pond, but it's this huge boulder in the pond, and it's like these waves that hit shore. Right? Like, what does that start turning in your mind, brother? It's
Oh,
crazy.
it's insane. Just hearing you say that, actually, it did spark something with me. So I probably, for anybody who deals with canned foods or in the food uh, logistics side of things at all, the pain that some of these drivers go through. I've had drivers send me signs where receivers have, don't ask to poop, don't ask for this, don't ask for that, stay in your truck. And I'm like, holy cow, like that's terrible. That is insane. But unfortunately, that's the reality of some of what these drivers experience when they're going to receivers. So, I mean, now putting it together with what you just mentioned, I mean, that's insane because now I have to think, okay, those crappy receivers, when I am dealing with a new driver or whatever, I'm gonna actually do a little of my own data mining or data mining
Well,
to figure out, like,
so when you say
is
data
this a new
mining, think of
is,
this.
is
Think,
this a new driver? Yeah.
well, and think of this. Even that data mining, because you said something that I didn't even, I mean, I'm now even more excited and more blown away. So that data mining, right? Hey, Mr. Supplier, Mrs. Supplier, I have an opportunity for you. This shipper has a cafeteria, driver is able to sleep on site, has facilities for the driver, doesn't have this, has this, doesn't have this for your driver. Now, think of that as a salesperson or operations person calling to book a carrier. Right
Yeah.
now, you're what? That's like the old "I'm on the beach trying to tan my cheeks." What kind of saying, right? And I'm just sexy for the beach or whatever it is. I forget the name of the song, but I just remember that part because my wife and I giggle about it all the time. But it's like,
Oh,
okay, now you as the sales rep or you as the operations professional are calling the supplier and saying, here's the data, or here's what we have. Stanley, come here. He's up in the window.
he's not. He's not.
Here's what we have for your drivers.
Mm.
Now, that as well will adjust that rate,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
right?
Look, this is a shitty load. The receiver's bad. We're gonna hook you up. We're paying a little bit more than you might see, but this is what's the deal. Yeah, yeah. I never, yeah. I mean, guys, what you're seeing right here is just a little bit of data that obviously is blowing our minds that we just found out. So that's
I
just
for the
how.
last 45 minutes I had a conversation. I got about 15 different data points.
Yeah.
Right? Like so let's take this data and or this strategy of data is the new oil, and let's revert that back to your customer, because I think this is critical when it comes to as sales reps, as professional sales reps, and as people looking to do more, be more, and achieve more with what it is that we have, right? So, if we extract that data from our prospect, hey, Mr. Prospect, and I'll give it to you straight here. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, in order to get you the best possible number, I'm not sure if you're aware, but it costs on average between $6,000 and $22,000 to get and retain a driver. So part of what I look at is our drivers are the cornerstone, they are the backbone, they are the essential, they are the pulse of the economy. Can I ask you a few questions about what kind of driver facilities you have and everything? Because all of that plays into the rate. It's not what it was 20 years ago where it's a simple pick up and deliver. It's, how accessible is it? Does the driver have facilities? What does the driver have? And you get all that data. So now you've got the data side to get a stellar rate. And I can probably guarantee you, just as it's going to get dark tonight, if you do this as a broker, you'll be probably the first broker that supplier will ever have heard of that is paying attention to how important it is their driver gets treated properly, as
With
opposed to just load or making money. Because, I
Without a
mean,
doubt, without a doubt. But let me tell you, even deeper now thinking. So, obviously, preparing for the show, I like to do a little research. So, I looked up, and if you guys just go on Google, just Google data is the new oil in logistics. You're going to see tons of reports, but just one that I have up that I read that I thought was really good. But it's by basically, and this is will really tie to you brokers that are still trying to beat the computers. I mean, let's be real, guys. There's the Uber Freights of the world now. There's with the data being out there and all the data that they're collecting. That's where these Uber Freights, this one-stop platform solution report that I'm read here, just about data and how it can be so crucial, you know, and how these systems are using it. These computers are using it. We need, if we want to compete and we want to have that personal touch to be able to use that. This is where we got to tie this together.
100%. I mean, we spoke many times now, and just before we hit live here, you and I had the conversation of like right message, right person, right?
Mm,
The more data we get, right? And y'all have heard DJ talk about that investigative call, like investigate on that first base that I call qualify. You know, the more inform and okay, so here's the entire sales sequence spectrum. If I get you know, what your challenges are, what your real challenges are, what type of timelines would be ideal for you. Can I deliver on these timelines? What are some of the obstacles? What have you tried before? What have you not tried? What have you done? And I gather all that information on, say, the first two calls or even the first call, right? Because you can really gather this information in about 45 seconds, right? Maybe even 5 minutes, depending on how much the person talks. But
Yeah.
you gather all that information. That nucleus of data is what you pull from on every single interaction. Because when you deliver the right message to the right person based on the data they've given you, your business changes.
Mm,
In my business, I ask salespeople, what have you tried before? What are some of the challenges you face? What are some of and I go through this. And there's, I mean, even in the Freight 101 group, there's
yeah.
so many people saying, can I shadow somebody? Can I shadow somebody? And people are
Yeah.
saying, you can shadow me. And no offense to anyone in that group or anywhere, but the fact is, you can't just say shadow me without data. You need data to make an educated choice. So I always say, hey, can we get on a phone call for 20 or 30 minutes? Tell me more. Explain to me what you've tried. And I get on the phone with the people and I hear what the challenges are. Based on those challenges, I can put together specific programs for them. You in sales, selling to shippers, selling to manufacturers, that nucleus, that like essence of that first phone call is everything. Because if you're pulling out that first phone call and their biggest challenge is a supplier that can move with their business, because maybe their business is one where it's, 20 loads one month, 2 loads the next month, but they need a trailer pool, right? That is a very difficult situation for an asset based supplier to leave trailers there for that long with only 2 loads in month two. But what if you have two or three suppliers that can almost use this yard as an entry point to serve their customers on the slow times when they're not, right?
Mm,
So if you didn't understand that nucleus by asking the questions and you just looked at, how do I get a cheaper trailer pool? You're never going to be on the same wavelength for the conversation. And I think that's important. And
okay.
not only that, DJ, I've always found when we use the customer's words or prospects' words back to them, it creates a dynamic that you'll never find. So if your customer says a phrase, or your prospect, sorry, says a phrase or sentence, note that down and use that phrase or sentence back to them to show them, A, you were listening, but B, here's a solution because of this, this, and this. Right. And if this is the situation and, and you rephrase it back. So when you do that, it's their own words, right? This data collection is like the cornerstone. Please, all of you out there, do not like just pass this off as, yeah, whatever. It's okay. It,
No,
it's, it's, it's
yeah.
crazy.
Well, and two, so whoever the Facebook user is, I'm trying to see who. Thank you for the comment, but they said, what I've personally seen is that a lot of logistics managers were previously analysts, so they understand and appreciate market data. I mean, that's exactly, guys. So, I came and I'll just a little quick of why I'm so crucial on this and why me and Dan love this whole data and is the new oil concept and idea is what this person said is so right. I guarantee that's right because I mean that's uh, you got to know what's causing what and what is going where and why and all of these things are going to play factor just like the housing market now is insane in Ohio at least it's pretty much insane everywhere um, just different reasons but you got to know the answers why not just that it's doing it but why and what's it going to cause and that's where digging into that data and why logistic managers are probably even if they aren't previous analysts they by the time they're done or they're seasoned in this and they're good, they could go be analyst anywhere. Because
Yeah.
that's
I mean, not only that, think about what this is Ryan that said that. So
okay.
it is were previously analysts, so they understand and appreciate market data. Okay. So I look at this in the same respect as I look at everything, right? I wrote a book. The amount of business I got from walking into a traffic manager's office, sitting down at the end saying, oh, I wrote a book on the 4 pillars of transportation and what it means, what transportation means as a whole. I'd like to leave you a copy. And I'd sign the front page and I'd leave it with them. That book was my business card, right? So if we look
Must
at
be bigger than
and
her.
dissect a little bit on what Ryan was saying, is market data. Okay. Hey, Mr. Prospect, Mrs. Prospect, whatever. Your area is experiencing A, B, C, and D. Has it impacted you at all? Like California, right? California local P&D, California mid-range is suffering huge because so many people see the volumes coming out of the ports. That's all the equipment's being sucked up. So other people
Yep.
that don't have relationship, that don't have steady freight, are in a lot of trouble in California.
You got it.
It's the same. We look at the data. What the data tells us is we're running more freight through ports in 2 months than the last 9 months combined, right? Savannah, Charleston, all these areas. So when that happens, what is the ripple effect from that? That is what data gives us.
Yes.
And not only that, data gives us this. We had Dean Crook on our Inception Q&A calls last week, and we talked about RFPs, and we talked about seasonal freight, Christmas trees being one. So, and I'm going to share a piece of data with you that I think is absolutely critical. He said, well, think of it like this. Coming out of Asia is where we get 97% of our fake Christmas trees. They're not coming because factories are closed, things are happening, COVID, da da da. Supply chains are completely fractured. He goes, so which means that if you look at it and 97% of the trees, fake trees that should be here are not here, what happens? People go and buy real trees. So
Yep.
what's going to happen with that real tree market? The real Christmas tree market is going to spike. With that data, you get a hold of your Christmas tree people and you say,
That's
hey,
it.
listen, 97% of them aren't hitting. Are you ready for a big year? So am I. This comes at a cost. And the cost is this: if you do not plan now for 60 days out, you're in trouble. Not only that,
Absolutely.
we speak to some of our students, and some of our students are saying, I've got projects, and the people I got projects with, the carriers I use are booking 8 weeks in advance. So, which means now is the time that all you salespeople start getting on this friggin' horse and selling. We can't wait. It's not like the old days. Even old days. Gosh, what am I, 80? It's not like the past
You've
where
been doing this too long.
yeah, but it's not like the past, DJ, where 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we didn't have to pre-plan any of this stuff. It was
No.
I remember when I first started, I had Plusmark and Clio Wrap were my two major customers. They were the only wrapping paper manufacturers in North America, right? And it literally went from zero freight
Yep.
October 15th,
Madhouse.
5-10 loads a day
Yeah.
until December 20th.
Yep.
And then it stopped. And there was no preparation. It was like, okay, yeah, we're still a week away. It's no big deal. A day or two before, I'd call my suppliers. Hey, you guys ready for this year? Yeah, we're ready for this year. Now it'd be like, no, man, I'm not ready. No, I'm
Yeah.
booked. So
Yeah.
that data is essential to all of you with seasonal business, all of you during RFP season. Like think about this for a second. You have an RFP and you
Well,
go back to the supplier or the manufacturer and you start asking them the questions about drivers, about facilities, about what accommodations do they have for your professional truck drivers. Like, A, you'll be the only one that asks that. But B, now you're going to go to your suppliers and you're going to say, hey, listen, I've got A, B, C, D, E, and F for your driver on this freight. We have the ability for 14,000 loads a year. What do you want?
yeah.
They will give up a D, C, or E level client to get that business 100% because it helps them retain drivers. And it's, again, that perspective that you've put it in because you understand and interpret the data.
Well, and here's the thing, guys. So Dan is spinning on a lot of stuff, and for anybody new to freight, it probably sounds like Chinese with all the stuff spitting it out. So I'm gonna break it down for you a little bit. So RFP or RFQ is what you'll hear. Just request for quote or proposal. So those are what he's meaning. This season is when, and we touched on it last week a little bit, but this is the season, or this is the time when when you guys are going on DAT and checking rates, or going somewhere and you see those contract rates. That is where those
Stop doing that.
Yeah, stop doing that.
Stop
But
doing that.
that is where those contract rates come from. Their regular rates doesn't matter. It's not name or price or what you're learning in the bigger brokerage houses that you might be working at or starting at and learning all the wrong ways, like I did. It's it's more than that. It's not calling up people asking for their freight. This is where you're actually using the data, like we're talking about, and you're becoming a professional in this industry and not just I don't know, a price hustler or a price cutter.
Freight
Um,
chaser, chase freighter.
yeah.
Because we would call it chase freight, right? When somebody would send an email out to 15 different brokers, and it's like, it reminds you of like the stock market, where everybody's like, pick it up. If you had three phones, you had three phones going. You got one in your hip, one in your knee, one in your shoulder, and you're like, yeah, you got the. And by the time you're done, they've artificially inflated the market huge because 50 different brokers are calling the same friggin' carriers. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Bingo. But that, and so that is favorite resources for data. That's a good question. Go ahead.
We'll dive into that one, sure, because
Yeah,
that's a good one.
we definitely will give you some of that. But again, so just breaking down, guys, simply what Dan was trying to say. So request for quote or request for proposal. This is the season. This is where the big companies like the Cokes, the Pepsis, that have tons of dedicated contract freight. That's when they're sending those things out. That's where you're going to try to reach out to those. But again, it's not what you learn or what most people learn, especially if you're brand new to freight. And again, I still consider myself very new. I mean, I've only been doing this for 5 years, so I'm really new to it. But there's you learn just the very, very basics, and that's why we have this show. Dan is kind of giving you the escalated view of his 28 years of experience, and it sounds like Chinese. Even to me, some of the things he spits out, I'm like, dang, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, it's huge. Uh, but it's his experience, and that's why we're doing this, guys. But again, so for you Freight 101 people that are really, really Freight 101, what he's talking about is the contract prices. If you're wondering on that contract, what does that even mean? How do you do that? That's what this is. That's what the RFP, RFQ, whatever your customers or your clients call it. That's what this is. So go ahead.
So when it comes to favorite places for data, I read a lot. I follow people like Dean Crook, Chris Miller. Like I read, I interpret, and I ask questions. So for me, my data sources come from people on the front lines. My suppliers that I'm friends with, I ask them. I call them once a week. Hey, what's happening in the industry? What's going on? I stay in touch with the people in the know, right? I have conversations and I reach out to executives. And as a salesperson, I'm suggesting you just reach out to people that are executives and say, hey, would you have a couple of minutes? I just want to get your thoughts on the industry and what's happening. Like today, I had prior to this, now I've got a podcast as well. And for those of you who don't have a podcast, hey, start a podcast. Reach out to people and say, do you want to be on my podcast? It's very simple. But here's the thing. I reached out to Ray Hyatt from McKinnon Transport. We had a 45-minute conversation, and I learned more than 3 hours of reading just on what's happening on the back end, client retention. I mean, he was talking about some companies that have 120% driver turnover. So if it costs you $6,000 to $22,000 to hire a driver and you have 120% turnover, that is crippling your operating ratio. Like for all of you brokers
But
that might not know.
it will explain why that carrier needs to charge $4, $5,
Well,
$6.
absolutely. But here's the bigger part is I think what a lot of us as brokers need to understand is we need to understand the asset side of the business. It is our only lifeline. Like as a broker, you can close all the business you want. If you don't have a supplier, you don't have an asset partner to run the freight, you're dead in the water. But here's the big thing. understanding that the majority of asset-based carriers are at a 95% operating ratio. What, for those of you that don't have never heard of that or whatever it is, it costs them 95% of the money they bring in to run the company, meaning they are a 5% margin. So if you do 100 million, you make 5%. If you're dealing with a carrier that's new and say is doing $500,000 in business, they're making 5%. They're probably making 2 to 3% because they're new, so they haven't been able to buy fuel at better prices and stuff. But let's
Yeah.
operate under just the basic assumption it's
Yeah.
5%.
Yep.
One big claim wipes them out.
They're done. Yeah.
Like, they just can't afford the legal fees. If they are operating at 5% and they're a smaller fleet, and you're trying to give them shit freight, for lack of a better word, what happens? Right? They might need it, but they're not going to stick around long. So my suggestion is all of you brokers out there become pro driver, because now you're seeing eye to eye with your supplier. And when you see eye to eye and you have the same mission, the same vision, the same goal, this is why I created reverse engineered logistics, because I saw that the best way to scale your business is start with the end in mind, which is your suppliers and that relationship, and build from there. And we've had students double, triple, quadruple their business, like hundreds of thousands of dollars difference in GP,
Oh, I believe
just
it.
by that simple strategy. And some of you say, well, Dad, it's easier said than done. Sure it is, but work the strategy, right? Like, you have the data. You do. You just got the data on the 27 minutes we've been live so far,
Oh my God.
where
Yeah. You got
6 to 22,000, like, you got so much data.
when Dan just answered my question. So the Facebook to answer the Facebook user question about the favorite sources. My source is Dan. That's who I go to. So guys, if you want to blow up Dan, just blow up Dan. No, I'm sorry. Do not blow up Dan.
Yeah, blow up my inbox. Go for it. Blow up my DM.
I'm
Let's
just
go.
kidding. I'm
You
just
want
kidding.
data? Let's go. I mean, listen, data's everywhere, right? So what I do is I have Ryan says mine too. Laugh out loud. So
Right. I knew I liked you for the stuff.
yeah, Ryan's a good man. Ryan's a good man. So here's the thing. I read a lot. The first hour and a half of my day is reading up on the industry. I don't just read one article though. I will find similar articles, or I'll read 5 to 10 to 15 articles a day from different groups. Okay. And what I mean by that, and what I will do is I will put the next time you get speaking, what I will do is I will look for my list of places I go for referencing and stuff, and then I'll put it in the chat here for everyone.
Perfect.
But here's the reality of it is, I don't just read one article and think this is the key, right? This is part of my training that I give, where I talk about follow-ups between follow-ups, because I actually take those article snippets and I write summaries of them, and I keep it in what I call a swipe file, which is just a Word document with the URL and what I thought of the article. And I use these to send to clients, because the more you stay up on the data, I believe the more professional you look, right? The more, right?
And that's
Go.
and I was gonna say that's exactly. I mean, you guys, if you just have been watching these shows for the past few weeks, I mean, Dan, all these I mean, Dan is giving you the layout of exactly how to be a professional, and that's the difference. If you're just doing this for a job, it's going to come across, and you're not going to spend the time to invest to look up all these sources that Dan is. Spend the time, man, that's a lot. Spend the time
Yeah.
to
So I
read.
just put it in chat there for all y'all, and I'll leave it up here. And then what I'll also do is I'll also go to LinkedIn, and I'll put it in the chat on LinkedIn as well.
Well, and here's the thing too, guys. So these sites that he's giving you, they're going to give you a lot of information, a lot of what we're talking about, and a lot of what your customers are going to need. But you're not going to know what your customers actually need, or what like Dan likes to talk about, what is going to move that needle, unless you're asking the right questions and doing first base properly and qualifying your customer. If you're not handling first base, you're not going to know which of these. God, tons of websites just shared. So
And here's the thing is I'll kind of share with you my strategy when I go through this, because some of you looking at it are going like, holy crap, man, like what do I got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do this? Well, you don't have to. You could want to for your career. You don't have to do anything. But then again, your career doesn't have to pay you dividends. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have to do anything. It's what we want to do for the betterment of our lives. So, if we want to take that Maslow approach on it, what you do screams so loud I can't hear words you say. So if you say, I want to be this professional, I want to be this professional, I want to be this professional, and you do zero to get you there, you don't get involved with a mentor. I don't care who it is. It could be DJ, myself, could be somebody else. You don't read, you don't educate, you don't take the time to get the data to be that professional. What you do screams so loud I can't hear a word you say. So shut your mouth and stop complaining. If you complain twice about the same thing,
I
okay,
love it.
and do nothing about it, you have no right to complain. A famous saying up where I live. So in my neighborhood, there's snowmobile trails everywhere. I could literally drive my snowmobile right out my front door and get almost anywhere in Canada if the snow's right. Okay. They have a saying:
Snows.
if you don't have time to help, you don't have time to complain. And what they mean by that is it's all volunteer that sets up the trail system, right? ATVs, snowmobiles, all dirt bikes. A lot of these systems are set up by volunteers. So if you're not going to volunteer, don't bitch, because nobody's going to listen to you. Kid Rock said it most. He says, I wanted this shit, so now I can't bitch. When they were talking about, how does it feel to like paparazzi being everywhere? And everybody goes like, listen, I wanted to be that rock star. Now I have it. I can't complain about having it. So when we talk about this data, when we talk about educating ourselves, when we talk about taking the data to sell, that is, for lack of a better term, and I know it probably makes zero sense in trucking, but it's the most scientific way to sell, right? You look at like the health market, DJ, right? And for all of you watching and listening, you look at the health market. The health market is scientifically proven to do this, this, and this. You're like, whoa, scientifically proven. I won't get me some of that. I'm gonna get rid of this belly, or I'm gonna get rid of that stuff under the arm, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Scientifically proven.
Yeah.
Exactly, but scientifically proven. If you have the data to back up your statement, it's proof. It's like Kretchen said, the proof is the proof. It's not proven until it's proven. When it's proven, it becomes proof, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that is the essence of sales. If you understand, so say for example, if you've decided as a salesperson you're going to do a geographical sell, you're going to become the expert in Pennsylvania or Ohio. All of those sites, you go to them, you just type in Ohio. It'll pull up the information.
Yep.
Go to Google and type in Ohio trucking articles. It'll pull up sure, there might be some surfing going on. You might have to sift through some things. But the reality is you will find data that 98.9% of other salespeople do not have. When you call the customer, you will be that 0.01% that completely stands out from the crowd because you understand the data that's that
Exactly.
area. Right?
And it
Like
just
I
makes
remember
me.
going to one of my colleagues when I was brokering, and I was coming out of the Northeast, and it was for a pharmaceutical company that needed reefers. And I said, Mike, I cannot, like, last week there was reefers out there. I mean, there were tons of reefers. I can't find one. What the hell's going on? He goes, well, you don't know? I said, what do you mean? He goes, it's lettuce. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, there is like 4,000 tons of lettuce. So think of the weight of lettuce and think of this weight coming out of the Northeast for the next 6 weeks. It's chopped lettuce in bags. I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah, you didn't know that? He goes, and here's the thing is I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I preach data and I don't know this. So I say, like when we talk, when DJ and I share this stuff, it's not that we never, for lack of a better term, shit the bed or whatever. I don't know if that's the way to put it, but like we screw up.
Yeah.
There's been customers I've gone into where I haven't researched the area and I start talking and they, not interested. And then there's other ones I go in, I research the area, I do my research, I understand because I'm a professional. And, like we all go through these ebbs and flows, right? Just a couple of weeks ago, I went through this ebb where I was just not interested in very much. right? I stopped my morning education. I stopped my evening education. I stopped. And then I get into this slump. And then it's like, okay, you got to pull yourself out. And you tell yourself, well, it's these other things that are happening, but it's not. It's bullshit. It's because you've lacked the energy, the motivation to do it. So what do? You get back in it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I love this so much because I can talk. And when I talk, I can speak in actualities that actually drive the needle for the people I'm here to serve. And for you, that's your customer. The person you're here to serve, the person you're here to help them achieve their goal is your customer. If you do not have the data, if you do not have the facts, right? Like, think about this. You're sitting there talking to a customer, and the customer saying, well, I pull out of California and I don't understand. I can't find capacity. And you don't understand because as of yesterday morning, 71 freighters sitting off the coast. There was over there was 436,000 20-foot containers on the water waiting to get docked. Like, almost 500,000 20-foot containers. Think of the volume of product of contain and what it's going to take to move those containers to market,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
That is what's sucking up the capacity. If you don't understand that, you can't speak to the science, or I don't know, let's change that word. The factual,
Yeah, it's facts. I mean,
it's facts, right? Like, science is pretty much fact, right?
that's what they.
You
Yeah,
can't, yes, I guess,
you
sort
can
of. I don't
prove
know
it.
if
I
it's
guess
scientific, but
you can
I'm gonna
prove
have
it.
to figure out a new one. We'll do another show just on that. But it's
I like it.
you know, you understand that you have visibility over that market. That's why you can speak in concrete terms. That's why you can say to the customer, okay, well, this is what's happening. We go back to that seasonal stuff that we talked about 20 minutes ago or whatever, DJ, right?
Yep.
You go to your customer with this seasonal stuff and say, like, listen, Mr. Customer, I'm trying to protect you. We're booking 6, 8 weeks out. You need to make a decision. And I'll do my best to help you, but I'll tell you right now, if you want flatline costs this season, we got to do it now. We don't do it now, your costs are going to do this. And I guarantee you they're going to be nowhere near here.
Yeah.
And you are then going to be, for lack of a better term, playing that spot market that costs eons more
Oh yeah.
than it should. Right? That makes sense, DJ?
Oh,
I'm not sure if
absolutely.
I've just started babbling.
No, no, you're right. You're right. And I was just gonna say too. You touched on doing the same. You went into a little rant, which I like. So Dan, guys, why Dan is getting a little frustrated is the difference between what we just keep talking about. It's the freight chasers or the guys just calling. Supply, clients trying to undercut whatever everybody else is doing, and that's kind of what a lot is taught in this industry. Um, that's the difference between being that and being an actual professional like Dan is, and why he's been so successful in this for 28 years. I mean, he's only been successful because he's not just chasing freight. He is he put in the time, put in the investment, invested in himself. Obviously, even thinking outside of the box with the podcast and getting his resource. I mean, he's right. Just say and start a podcast and reach out to these people just to get the same info that Dan. It's out there. These guys will talk to you. You just
Everybody at higher levels will free up time for somebody that wants to learn. They
absolutely.
really will. I mean, you know what? Get a hold of me, and I'll connect you with people if you're truly interested in learning. I have no problem with that. Like, people are always willing to help.
Yeah.
And DJ, just to kind of dovetail on what you said, you know, I believe wholeheartedly that if this is your career, you owe it to every single customer to be the best you can be. Because when you are not, right, it's like a doctor. A doctor chooses that path as a career. They finish medical school. If they never go to school again, they become obsolete in literally 16 months because of the pace at which the medical industry is climbing. Good friend of mine was the number 2 strength and conditioning coach in North America. He actually was in Russia, who trained the trainers for the Russian hockey team. He
Oh, wow.
speaks all over the world for it. He goes to school more now, meaning he educates himself more now than he did when he was taking courses in school, college, and education, because the health industry and the mechanics of body and rhythm and movement is escalating so fast. We're realizing the real potential that we have as humans. So he's consistently training. That's his career. You think in a
Uh-oh. Dan, I think we lost you. You're breaking up, so I'm going to come in. So what do you, well, I'm going to try to jump ahead because I see I'm still live. So what he basically is trying to say, guys, is just, again, the difference between becoming a professional in your industry and not. Putting in the time, putting in the effort, uh, to use Dan's analogy and Dan's system to kind of even just figure this out for yourselves. If this is in the industry, anybody new to it who is in the group jumping into it because they hear of all the money that's in this industry, yes, there's tons and tons of money in this industry, but that's not the reason to get into it. You have to first, I would say, to reverse engineer yourself and really do the data mining for yourself. Figure out your why. A lot of I listen to a lot of YouTube people, a lot of ET Eric Thomas. Shout out to him. He talks about your why a lot. Les Brown, a lot of guys out there talk about your why. Figure out your why. Mine is obviously my family, my kids. And most people is going to be the same, but figure out why and then figure out what you want to do. I tried to keep it flowing for you there.
You know what?
We
My
lost.
computer just totally went black, and
Oh, you're frozen. You're frozen. But reverse engineer yourself, guys. Figure out your why. Figure out if this is your industry or your job if you like doing it. The reason we talk about this is not to deter people from doing it, but it's just finding yourself so that you want to invest in yourself to become the professional that Dan was basically trying to tell you to do.
yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're there.
Oh
Okay.
wow! You know what? No, my computer just went black. I'm kind of like, hello.
Oh, you were frozen.
I'm thinking, did I keep my power bar or something? But yeah. So I guess just to finish that thought, because I know we got to get moving here. But you know, when you make it, that's just the beginning of the adventure, right? Like if you go for a hike in the woods, just driving to the woods is the beginning of the adventure. The time for the map is before you enter the woods, right? You know where you're going. You don't just get on a plane and figure wherever the plane lands, I'm going to go on vacation. You know where you're going on vacation. So if this is your career, you really do owe it to everyone in your community, to everyone you work, to your team, to your managers, to everyone to be the best you could be. And
To
that is
yourself.
only
To
done through
yourself.
training.
Yeah. To yourself and to your why as well. To your family, your friends, your everybody. Thank you for who
Thank
said that,
you.
DJ.
Yes, thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
there we go. Loving this perspective, DJ. There we go.
hey,
Yeah, well, you know what? Hey, listen, for all of you watching, just remember, we do it every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. We go live, we talk about it. Next week, selling something else, which is really cool because next Thursday, I've got a special Sell Something Else masterclass that I'm going to introduce you all to on Tuesday that I think is
hey.
really going to change the way you look at sales and change the way you sell. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Sales Chatter with DJ and Dan. That's a freaking awesome name too. Sales Chatter with DJ and Dan. I like that.
I love it.
All right, my friends, I got to get moving this morning because I got a few things I got to take care of prior to my next meeting, DJ. But you know what? It was awesome. Do you want to just close it out?
Yeah. I'll close it up again. Thanks to Dan. Obviously, he's a busy guy. He has his program that he doesn't push enough on here, so I'm going to push it for him. You see it on the banner on the bottom. High performance. If you guys want to change, if you actually want to invest in yourself and invest in your future and better your why, just look up Dan's stuff. Even just watch
Just
these shows
DM me.
over again. Even if you just want the free stuff, but if you get a lot and you're loving what you're seeing, DM him and find out info about his program. Let me tell you guys. So he doesn't share this often. I think he shared it on the first show a few times. But he charges very little for the information that he gives and his experience. I mean, his experience and knowledge is insane. And that's why I love doing the show with you. So thank you again.
Thanks,
But
buddy.
even more than that, he will work it out with you guys new to the industry. I mean, he said it. He DM in it. If the $5, $6, $7, $800, I think he has a special for our group, Freight 101. So if you're not in the group, join. But he has a special for the group. But if you can't afford that, he will work it out with you. We want to help people. The reason for the group, the reason for the show is we want to help people get into this industry who will have a love and a drive for it, not just because of the money that is driving a lot of people into it, but because of, like we like to talk about, the taking care of the carriers, really understanding the value. I mean, I cannot say it enough. I'd say it to every driver or carrier that I talk to. Thank you so much. Because them being out there and away from their families and doing what they do is the only reason I get to be here and talking to Dan. Otherwise, I'd be, old school days. And maybe we'll do a show just on this. And you could, since you've been in it so long, talk about the old school ways of going to truck stops with stuff. And
I'd
I heard,
love
I heard,
to do that. That would
I
be
heard,
such a great episode.
I
Yeah,
heard lots of shit.
sure.
I heard
The
lots of stories
evolution of
from other guys.
28 years of transportation. Yeah, that would be
Yes.
awesome. I mean,
I've
listen,
never,
DJ, I appreciate that so much. And, I guess if I can, I'll just close out with this. Back in 2008, I had about close to a $33 million company. And when the economy crashed, within 6 months, I had a $300,000 company. My ego and everything got in the way. When the company dissolved, I think I walked away with close to 10 grand from a $33 million company to 10 grand. I mean, it was a massive failure. And when I look to the market to try and figure out like what happened, how can I change my perspective? How can I change my mindset? Everybody wanted like 5-10 grand for a program, right?
yeah.
I just couldn't afford it. And I said to myself, I would never let that happen. And we have students come into Inception. Inception first started at the introductory price was $650 and went up to $997. It's now at $1997 for Inception. It comes with a full year of coaching with me directly twice a week. It's a 6-week program that is literally the end-to-end sales system in this industry. It teaches you everything from A to Z. A lot of the people watching this show are Inception students.
Yep.
But I've always said I will never let money get in the way of somebody that's dedicated. So if you're dedicated, DM me. Even if you can't afford it, I have a multitude of programs to put you in, ranging from $27 to $98 to $2,000. But it all depends on, again, that conversation we have with the data. I am not going to say, and I've had many conversations just this week with sales reps, where I say, unfortunately, you're not ready for Inception. And not that it won't help you, but I think this course will help you more. So challenge, it's $100, and then after you do that challenge, then let's talk about Inception.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, I gotta go. Sorry,
I'm gonna end with a quote. This is the quote to drop the mic right here. I found this one just for today, and you kind of played right into it, so I love it. Without data, you are just another person with an opinion.